welcome back for our second week of online learning. I do hope you had a lovely weekend. We've got some more poetry today, but I'm going to begin by showing you a poster. Think outside the box. What do you think that actually means? To my mind, somebody who thinks outside the box is very creative. They have a good imagination. They're often not frightened of being different or suggesting different ideas, and they often look at problems or solving problems from different viewpoints. Now, when you're doing your warm-up today and your poetry writing, I would really like you to try and think outside the box. Don't always go for the very obvious thing. Maybe think a little bit longer before you put your ideas down. So, we're starting off with a bit of a drawing activity. Here is a doodle. I would like you to put that doodle into a picture. However, that doodle is not a cloud. So what you're going to do straight away is think outside the box. You need to be creative, you need to be imaginative. You can turn that doodle the other way, you can put it on its head, you can put it on its bottom, you can do whatever you like with that doodle. Have a go at putting it in a picture now. Stop the video while you do it. Now, I love these activities, and I decided that I would put that doodle into a portrait. And this reminded me very much of my grandma, because she always used to put rollers in her hair, and her hair seemed to grow on the top of her head. And I don't know why, she had a very surprised expression on her face. Okay, let's move on to today's poetry. So, today's poetry session is called Boasts and Lies. Now, we would usually discourage you from boasting or lying, but you are allowed to do it today to make your poetry interesting and exciting. You need a pen, piece of paper, and your imagination. I'm going to begin with a quote from the poet James Carter, and I'll read it out to you. Imagine you are an ancient mythical being, older than time itself. Inside your head is the entire universe. You have observed, lived, and experienced all of space and time. You know everywhere and everything, all of history, as well as the present and the future. You know everything that has and could have happened. You have visited every nation, world, and galaxy. So, you need to imagine that you have got an unbelievable amount of information inside your head. You have knowledge that nobody else has, and you are going to boast about it, and occasionally you might add some lies as well. So get your pen and your paper ready, and off we go. Step 1, you need to give yourself a name. Now, this could be a name that you've read in a book, or it could be a name, your own invention. It could be your own name, but maybe you want to be a bit more creative. I decided to call myself Zeldania, or I might call myself Zano. I just wanted to be a little bit unusual there. Stop the video and think of some names, jot them down on your paper. On to step 2. Now, most of the steps today will have a sentence starter, and the sentence starter for step 2 is, I am older than. What can you think of that is really, really old? And please don't say Mrs. Jackson. Remember, you're boasting and lying. So, think back, think back, think back. What is really, really old? Is it the ocean? Mountains? Time itself? A tree? What can you think of? Let me share my ideas with you. I am older than a dinosaur fossil. I am older than the first breath of time. I am older than the acorn from which the Goffs Oak tree grew. Stop the video and note down your ideas about what you could be older than and begin them with that sentence starter. Right, on to step 3. And your sentence starter for this is, I was there when. Can you think of any great events, anything that springs to mind that you could boast that you were at? Could it be, did you fight in the trenches in World War I? Maybe you did. Did you play in England's team when they won the World Cup in 1966? Where could you have been? Here are my ideas. I was there when the pyramids were built, when Cleopatra ruled Egypt, when Stone Age man hunted woolly mammoths, and when the Vikings invaded in their longships. Stop the video and jot some ideas down. Step 4. Your sentence starter for step 4 is, I remember. What can you boast about that you could remember? Oh, what have we learnt about? You could boast about that you remember when young children were sent up the chimney in Victorian times. Maybe you could boast about that. Maybe you could remember when men fought in World War II, or maybe you can remember when Winston Churchill was with the Prime Minister. Maybe you can remember when King Henry VIII was our king. Here are my ideas. I remember the Big Bang. I can remember Tyrannosaurus rexes intimidating the land. I can remember Queen Victoria being crowned. I can remember King Henry marrying his 6th wife. Stop the video, note down some ideas. Remember, you are boasting and possibly lying. Step. Now you've got another sentence starter. I taught. Who could you boast about teaching? Let your imagination go wild. Think of somebody that you know about from history. What could you have taught them? Could you have taught Winston Churchill how to run a country? Maybe you could. Here are my ideas for this part. I taught Julius Caesar how to fight. I taught Zeus how to make thunder. I taught William Shakespeare how to write poetry. And I taught rebellion to Emmeline Pankhurst. You have a think, which period of history are you interested in? Who do you know was important in that period of history? What could you have taught them? Stop the video and note down your ideas. Right, step 6. This sentence starter begins, I know how many. Now for this section, you have to pretend you know a number that actually nobody knows at all. Such as, I know how many stars are in the sky. I know how many leaves are on the Goffs oak tree. I know how many hairs are on my head. Of course, I don't know this number, but I'm boasting. So, I know how many stars fill the night sky. I know how many bees there are in a beehive. I know how many blades of grass exist in the whole world. And I also know how many freckles I have. Stop the video and get boasting. Which number do you think you could know? Now we're on to step 7. And your sentence starter for step 7. In my other lives, I have been. Now, think about a historical age that maybe you would like to have lived through. What could have you have been? I could have been, in my other lives, I was a child of Queen Victoria. Or maybe you were Queen Victoria herself. Or maybe, in your other lives, you were a chimney sweep in Victorian times. Maybe you were a Roman gladiator invading England. Who could you have been? Here are my ideas. I have been a Viking. I have been a Victorian princess. I have been a Greek slave. And I have been a Stone Age huntsman. Jot down some ideas and stop the video while you're doing it. Step 8. And once I was something, and you're going to expand this idea. So you could actually here pretend you were an actual object, e.g. a grain of sand or a scarlet feather. Or you could pretend here you were an abstract object, a smile or a wish. So this is a little bit tricky, this bit, because you're trying to pretend you're using personification, really. You're bringing something to life that isn't actually alive. So this is my idea to give you a bit of guidance. And I was once a single grain of sand that lay on the Sahara Desert and baked in the heat. Now what I've done here has been very specific. It's the Sahara Desert, not just any desert. I've added more information in there. And my other example, and once I was a smile that creased the face of a small child playing in a puddle. So this is an actual object that I'm pretending to be, and this is an abstract object that I'm pretending to be. Stop the video and have a little go. It's rather tricky. There's no right or wrong in poetry. Give it a go. So we're now on to step 9 and time to write your poem. So this is where you read back over your notes, you pick out your favourite parts and decide which order you'd like to put them in. And sometimes you might need to do that 2 or 3 times before the poem reads right and sounds right to you. You can change words, you can add more detail. The important thing is, as you're writing, read out loud what you're doing and you will hear whether you've created the sort of poem that you would like. Now, I would absolutely love to see your poetry. Some people have been posting videos and they've read their poetry, which is fantastic. Or if you don't wish to read it out, that's fine. You can just write it on a piece of paper and send me a photograph. I'm going to show you my poem because I've introduced a slightly different element, a bit of repetition, which you can put into yours as well. Boasts and Lies by Mrs. Jackson. My name is Zeldana. I am clever, strong and wise. These are neither boasts nor lies. I am older than the acorn from which the Goff's oak tree grew. I was there when Stone Age man hunted woolly mammoths. I remember when the Tyrannosaurus Rex intimidated the land. I taught Zeus how to create both thunder and lightning, and I know how many blades of grass exist in the whole world. In my other lives, I've been a Viking, a Victorian princess, a Greek slave, and once I was a smile that creased the face of a small child splashing in a puddle. These are neither boasts nor lies. I am clever, strong, and wise. So, if you'd like to take these 2 lines and pop them in your poem, it's a really nice way to introduce it. You might want to invent your own way of introducing it, but I think this works very well and it also finishes the poetry off very nicely. So good luck with your poems and I really look forward to reading them or listening to them.